Today's lesson is very quick, but it is difficult for some students to comprehend the general idea of how it works. That will also help us out for some of us who have some work to do on 5.1. When two variables x and y, and we're just going to say x and y for this case, but when two variables x and y have what we call a direct variation, they can be written in the form y equals kx. Now you notice that y is typically your dependent variable, x is typically your independent variable, and we simply attach the letter k, which represents a constant of variation. That is the definition of k. Anytime you see it as a constant of variation, k is typically your general algebra notation for constant, something that does not change. But again, y equals kx is a direct variation. Our job in this situation is to find the value of k, then use that value to find other values within the relationship. Notice we have a compound sentence here, which means that there are two things for us to do. Because of the nature of working with direct variation, it is important to that you imagine that you have two separate jobs. If you do not learn to visualize this as two separate jobs, you're going to make a silly mistake. You're going to plug numbers in where they should not be, and you're not going to get it right. The moment you accept that this one process is two separate jobs, it will help you to work successfully through each problem, and it actually makes it a very simple problem once you accept it, once you understand how the process works. So let's begin by just looking at some general equations that we're going to translate into a direct variation equation. This says the amount of profit P earned by a company varies directly with the number of sales S. This phrase means that there is a direct variation. So it means that we can attach a k to the dependent variable. And the way you do that is, if it's the profit P varies directly with blah, then you put P equals k times whatever the other variable is, which is S. Very simple. The profit varies directly with the sales S. If I saw the number of customers at a store C varies directly with the number of holidays H, again, once I see varies directly, it means that I have a constant of variation, and so I would say C equals KH, because the cost varies directly with the number of holidays, or the customers vary directly with the number of holidays. So now that we see this, the rest of the work is algebraic. We will substitute information to find K. We will then use K to find the answer. That is your two jobs. Again, the first thing you do is you use this to plug in your information and find K. After you find K, you plug that in to find your final answer. So one problem says the weight on Mars, y, varies directly with the weight on Earth, x. So the first thing I would do is put y equals kx. Because I see varies directly, it says someone who weighs 50 pounds on Mars weighs 130 pounds on Earth. They will always give us a sentence that relates to numbers. It was kind of like your proportion work in Unit 1. 50 pounds on Mars, 130 pounds on Earth. And so you put 50 in for the Mars number. Our first job, again, is to substitute. So 50 pounds on the Mars, which is y, equals k times 130 pounds on Earth. Of course, if you are doing this, then we do divided by 130, divided by 130. 5 over 13 is what k is. Okay, when that reduces, if you don't know, again, 50 divided by 130 equals math, enter. Again, that just kind of becomes a pattern after a while, but that is my constant. That was job one. Again, you notice that we have one column of work. We translated, we substituted, we found k. Once we find k, job number two is to rewrite this general formula, but it's no longer general because we know the constant. So y is equal to 5 over 13 times x. Again, you should have a general equation, and then once you find k, you now write the equation with the constant plugged in. The question now is, how much does a 170-pound person weigh on Mars? Of course, we're talking about a person on Earth that's 170, which means that this 170 goes in for x. So we put y equals 5 over 13 times 170. The real way I taught you to do it was that anytime you multiply a whole number times a fraction, it multiplies to the top. And so we do 170 times 5, which gives us 850 over 13. After that, of course, we never give a weight as a fraction. It should be a decimal because we're talking about weight. Again, using common sense here, 850 divided by 13 is about 65.4 pounds on Mars. And again, notice y is Mars, and the y weight would be 65.4. So again, 2 jobs. Write the general form, find the answer. Write the real form with the actual constant, because there's always a constant. Plug in the information and find out what you need to see. Anytime you hand me your work on your B quiz today, this is the setup I should see. 2 columns. 1 column here to find K, 1 column here to find your second answer. Again, it's 2 jobs going on. You'll see a question that says, suppose y varies directly as x. Write a direct variation equation that relates x and y, then find the value of y when x equals 15. This is just a bunch of words, and this is just a part that goes with it. Again, once you see varies directly, you write your formula, y equals kx. You use this information to plug it in, which means that 10 is equal to k times 7. Again, if I want k by itself, I divide by 7. The algebra is not tough. You just have to make sure that you understand the process and the steps. Now that I have k, this is job number 1, I now rewrite the formula with k substituted. And then notice it says find the value of y when k is equal to 15, or sorry, when x is equal to 15, so it means I put y equals 10 over 7 times 15. Take the 15 to the top, remember whole number times a fraction, you get 150 over 7. And I'm assuming 150 over 7 works here just because I just make sure it's reduced, again, just out of good habits. Math, enter, and it is 150 over 7. So this would work for me. Just be careful on the Math Excel, because remember that it does sometimes say integer or whole number, or sorry, integer or simplified fraction, integer or decimal. For me, as long as this is not a word problem, 150 over 7 is what I'm looking for, because remember, I don't like decimals on that stuff. Okay? And then you will also see one that says, for the data of each table, does y vary directly with x? If it does, write an equation for the direct variation. And here's what you do. In that situation, you simply look, and you remember that y equals kx is what you're looking at. And if we solve that, remember our literal equations, if you're looking for k, so again, to kind of understand what's going on, this is the foundation, so make sure you tune into this. If I am looking for k, and I want to get k by itself, I have to get rid of x, and the way I do that is by dividing by x, which means that y over x represents my constant. So it means that if I am looking for k, I do y divided by x. Isn't that like slope? I think it is. So we go here and we simply do 7.5 divided by 3. That gives us a constant of variation of 2.5. That does not mean that that is our constant, because it just means that that's what 7.5 and 3 how they are related. When I do 28 divided by 8 in this second situation, I get the answer of 3.5. Once I get 2 different answers, they're not directly related, because the constant should be the same if they are directly related, and that's what you are looking at there. Okay? So again, before we looked at the common difference, now if we're looking for the constant of variation or direct variation, we do y divided by x, get the answer, y divided by x. If it's the same, continue. If not, you know it's not directly related. Look at this one here, 18.6 and 6. Again, y over x is equal to k, so we do 18.6 divided by 6, which gives us the answer of 3.1. We now do 34.1 divided by 11. We get 3.1. We now do 40.3 divided by 13. We get 3.1. The answer is yes, it is directly related, and the constant of variation, or the equation, would be y equals 3.1x. And then again, think about it. 3.1 times 6, 18.6. 3.1 times 11, 34.1. 3.1 times 13, 40.3. So whatever answer you get here is your k, and that is what you plug into it. I guess the reminder is, don't forget to hand in your B work. Again, you can do A however you want, with partners, with me, bringing it up, asking questions to get it understood. If you don't have it understood, simply hit the button that says similar question, try a different one, get it down, And then when you finish that point and you feel comfortable, then go to B. And keep in mind again on your B equations or your B assessments, you do get 3 times to take it. But like I said, just make sure that after you take your B assessment, if you miss anything, bring it up so I can try to help you figure out what you did wrong. Other than that, good luck, and let's go.